Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the IPA4SME webinar for Cutoff 4. My name is John Lanfranco, Project Manager at the GoPacom, one of the consortium partners of IPA4SME. So before we start the presentation, my colleague Filippo will explain the technical details of the webinar, and then we can start. Filippo?
Yes, thank you, Joan. Hello, everyone, and thanks to attend this webinar on IPA4SME. I am Filippo De Fabrizio, and I am part of GoPacom, a communication agency based in Brussels. We deal with the institutional communication for the European institutions and agencies. I'm going to spend a few words on the rules and the ways you have to interact with us during the webinar. First of all, the webinar is recorded, so you can find the entire session on YouTube at the end of the webinar. There are few ways you can there is one way you can interact with us during the webinar. Basically, you have a question session. It's a panel you have in your screen, in the right side of your screen, and you can pose your question there, and we will collect all your questions and we will reply at the very end of this webinar. So you can interact with us using the questions panel. This is pretty much it from my side. I'll give you the floor to Marco, so we can start the presentation. Thank you.
Hello to everybody and welcome on board of IPA4SME project. I am Marco Razzadio from CARSA, an industrial consultant based in Bilbao, and I am here today to explain you how to proceed in order to benefit the most from IPA4SME support services in an easy and efficient way. So let's start. So in my screen, I'm sharing the guide for beneficiary that every beneficiary can use. I strongly recommend to everybody to read accurately the guide, because in this document you can find all the important information to follow in order to receive partial reimbursement. So before to start the presentation, I would like to emphasize that for all the beneficiaries who have been awarded to receive more than one service, beneficiary is not forced to follow any particular order in completing the service. This means that you can use all the service in parallel or one after the other. Same situation for all the beneficiaries of service 1 is not mandatory to complete before service 1 before to start the activities within service 2 and service 3. So regarding the general condition of for all the beneficiary, is really important to know that all support services will be managed through the IPA4SME electronic submission system. So basically, a beneficiary can access the services by logging into EMS. You can find the link on the on the guide. And by visiting my project section under my area menu, you can find all the information regarding the services that you have been awarded. It's really important to know that always in my project there is a specific place called Go to Support Documentation, in which sorry for the problem. So there is a specific space called Go to Support Documentation, in which basically all the beneficiary can have access and can upload the support the document important for receive the reimbursement. Instead, in the place called the reimbursement, all the beneficiaries have to upload the financial identification, that basically is the bank details that the coordination center needs to make the transfer in the case that we will accept the documentation for the partial reimbursement. So basically here there are some screenshots in which you can see how the panel will appear to all the beneficiaries. So let's go to describe the services. So it's really important to know that during the entire process, beneficiary will be asked to complete a series of surveys as a part of their award. So there is in the following table that I will show, there are summarized all the surveys that should be completed during the entire time frame of the project. As you can see, so basically beneficiaries have to answer surveys before and after completion of their support services. One of the most important is sure the first, called IPA4SME self-assessment. That basically is a survey that to be completed before can start any of the services award. So it's really recommended to all the beneficiaries to complete this survey as soon as possible. And to have access to this survey, we have to use the link that appears in the communication award email that all the beneficiaries received, that regarding cutoff 4 was the last 15th of April. So instead, regarding the financiality form, you can find always in the guide the link that you have to follow in order to find the model, to complete the financial statement. I repeat, this document is really important for us in order to have all the bank details of the beneficiary in order to pay them. So let's go to describe the different services. As already you know, within IPA4SME, we offer 3 particular services. One related to AP pre-diagnostic, also called the service 1, focuses on providing advices to boost their SME EP capabilities and competence. This service is free of charge for all the beneficiaries. And then we have 2 co-financing services, where basically we provide partial reimbursement of all the costs associated with the AP registration process. So regarding the service 1, the workflow of service 1, it consists of 5 main steps. So basically, the workflow of services 1 consists of 5 main steps. So after completing the IPA4SME self-assessment, that is a mandatory request, the service without which the service cannot begin. So the coordination center basically will facilitate the initial contact between beneficiary and expert. In this case, there are 2 specific situations, because basically for all those SME located in countries such as Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, Netherlands, and Spain, the expert will be assigned directly by the national AP office. In this case, once collected the IPA4SME self-assessment, we contact the national EP office asking them to assign an expert to you. Instead, for all those beneficiaries located in countries like Greece, Italy, Ireland, Latvia, and Sweden, basically the coordination center will provide you a list of experts that you have to select. Once the expert, in this case, have been assigned or chosen, beneficiary can start to schedule a possible meeting for the implementation of the services. In this respect, I would like to inform you that since the outbreak of the virus, in some cases, the expert will ask the beneficiary to schedule a video call meeting. This already happened during the cutoff 3, And I would like to emphasize that all beneficiaries that used Skype video calling, they don't have any problem. They were totally satisfied. So please don't be worried to use in a case this kind of process by video call. However, please consider that any possible meeting schedule, in the case that we will have some problem, they can be postponed. So once you will have scheduled the meeting, the pre-diagnostic services can start. It consists of 3 main steps. When there is the initial analysis, basically the expert will analyze the competitive environment of the beneficiary, thanks to the survey of the IPA4SME self-assessment survey. Then the expert will interview the beneficiary. In this case, remember that the interview can take between 2 and 4 hours. And at the end, the expert, after the interview, the expert will finalize the reports, in which all the results will be collected, and he will deliver to you. Once all the beneficiaries have received the final report, we kindly ask you to complete the survey relating to the satisfaction of the services received. So please keep in mind that service 1 is free of charge. So any cost will be supported by the coordination center. And as I said before, please, with regard to the meeting, consider that the interview usually can take between 2 and 4 hours. So before scheduling a possible meeting, please take in consideration this. So it's really important to know that the time frame to complete service 1 is 4 months, starting from the date of communication to the support service. That, as I said before, everybody, the beneficiary of cutoff 4, received this email the 15th of April. So please try to complete as soon as possible the IPA4SME self-assessment. So thanks to that, then we can be in contact with the expert, and the expert can schedule with you a possible interview meeting. Regarding the service 2, within these services, basically, also called the partial reimbursement of European Patent Office. So basically, we provide economic support to cover all the costs related to an European Patent Office registration. So also in this case, the workflow consists of 5 steps. Basically, at the beginning, there is, as always, the completion of IPA4SME self-assessment. But I personally consider the most important step of these services the activation of the service. So basically, please consider that being awarded with a services, which could be service 2 or service 3, does not mean that the services is active. Basically, within IPA4SME project, to activate the service, beneficiary must provide within 4 months of date of communication of award valid documentation that beneficiary should upload on EMS platform. Valid documentation consists of an invoice together with its corresponding proof of payment, which must meet specific requirements that we will be discussing soon. So, as you can see on figure 3, there is the time frame of the service 2. All the beneficiaries received the award communication the 15th of April, and within 4 months, so until the 15th of August, all the beneficiaries that has been awarded with service 2 have to activate the services. However, I would like to point out that so once the service is activated, as you can see here, beneficiary will have until the end of the IPA4SME project to make a second request for reimbursement. But if a beneficiary is not able to activate the service 2 or service 3, as we will see later, within 4 months, the support will be cancelled. So once the support is cancelled, it's impossible to provide us a valid documentation. In this respect, the only way to upload valid documentation is to apply again the entire process. So please try to provide us any possible documentation within 4 months from the date of communication award. In the event that a beneficiary has been awarded both service 2 and 3 from the same cutoff, the activation of either of the support services will automatically extend the time for the activation of other services by an additional 4 months. So basically, this means that, for example, I am a company that have been awarded for service 2 or service 3. What I can do is activate only service 2 within 4 months from the award communication email. And since I have been also awarded for services 3, I will have additional 4 months to activate the missing services. That in this case of the sample is services 3. So this means that until the 15th of December, I will be able to activate service 3. However, if I have been awarded of services 2 and services 3, but I'm not be able to activate neither of the both services, in this case, both of the services will be cancelled. So please try to provide us with valid documentation in order to activate at least one of the 2 services within the 15th of August. So, going to talking about what is the valid documentation. As I said before, basically, valid documentation consists in an invoice together its corresponding proof of payment. With regard to the invoices related to EPO patent registration, there can be 2 possible options. Option A, in which basically the EPO patent registration is made by an IP attorney on behalf of the beneficiary company. Option 2 is when the EPO registration has been made directly by the beneficiary company. So go to talk about the option 1, which means that the EPO registration is made by an IP attorney. In this case, to consider valid the invoice must be dated after the date of the communication of IPA support, which means the 15th of April. Additionally, to qualify the reimbursement, the invoice must include the following information: the name of the patent attorney who provides you the services. This name must be the same as in the EPO database. Then it's really important that the invoice includes the patent application process, which means the title of the invention or the IP being protected. Additionally, within IPA4SME are considered eligible of reimbursement only the EPO service code included in the table 2. So when you will provide an invoice, together with include the date, the name of the patent attorney, the patent application process, please, we kindly ask you to include also the EPO service code for which you are asking the partial reimbursement. Only those included in this table are eligible. So please include in the invoice the EPO service code number, but also the description. In this way, you will facilitate us to understand if we can consider your invoice eligible or not. Additionally, please, if you can, to facilitate the reimbursement process, please try to include everything in English, and in the event that, for example, the invoice is in another language, like for example Spanish, to facilitate the process of revision, please use the following model statement. In this way, it will be easy for us to revise all the invoices without having problem. With regards to the option B, which means that the EPO patent registration has been made directly by the beneficiary company, in this case, what we ask is the beneficiary can only be reimbursement once they have the PDF document of the debit order submission confirmation from the EPO online filing software. In this case, to qualify the reimbursement, the valid EPO order submission must include the patent application process that, as stated before, is the title of the invention of the EP being protected, together with the EPO debit order number, which means the EPO service code that are included in the table above. So, during the revision, what we are going to check is this invoice that must meet the requirement already discussed, and then please, you should upload also the corresponding proof of payment. So in this case, beneficiary must provide proof that the EP patent attorney invoices or the valid EPO debit order submission has been paid before partial reimbursement can occur. Also in this case, the only document that we'll accept is a bank transfer receipt, which clearly indicates the name of the beneficiary, the AP patent attorney, in the event that we are talking about option A, and also in this case, the date of payment must be after the date of communication of IPA4SME support. So, when we receive this document, we will go to revise, and only when we have marked the document provided as valid, the services can be considered active. Once the service is active, beneficiary has within the end of the project to provide us new invoices. Also in this case, these invoices must be associated to the same EP patent. I would like to point out, in fact, that it can happen that more than one invoices can be associated to the same EP patent. However, please notice that in case a beneficiary possesses more than one invoices, all these invoices should be related to the same EP patent, which means same title of invention or EP being protected. So once we have marked, as I repeat, once we have marked the document as valid, you can consider the service active. So to request partial reimbursement, beneficiary simply need to, in the case of option A, as I said, provide us invoices of the EP patent attorney and the corresponding proof of payment, which in the case of option B, the beneficiary have to upload only the invoices related to the debit order submission confirmation to EMS. Please, in order to facilitate our revision, we kindly ask you to upload all these documents, which means invoice plus together with proof of payment in a single PDF or zip file. In this way, it will be easy for us to check all the documentation. So once the reimbursement has been received from IPA4SME Coordination Center, we will go to revise the document. And in the case, we will accept, we will consider them valid, we are going to proceed with the partial reimbursement. That I would like to remember that in the case of service 2 will be the 75% of the cost included in the invoices. Anyway, there is a limit for every EP patents that is euro 2,500. So this is service 2. Going to talk of service 3, also called partial reimbursement of EP attorney fee. As you can see in the screen, so also in this case, the workflow of service 3 consists of 5 main steps. So within service 3, what we offer is financial contribution to cover all the costs associated to hire an IP patent attorney in charge of providing legal advices for the purpose of preparing the filing for a European patent or to discontinue an initial idea of patent application. So basically, all the invoices that we are going to take in consideration should be in a scope of filing a European patent. So in the case we will receive invoices submitted from EP patent for register your EP patent in country like, for example, Brazil, we are not considering them valid. So please, we can receive and we can accept all invoices that are related to European patent registration. So, as I said, the time frame, so the workflow of service 3 consists of 5 main steps. So once all the beneficiaries completed the IPA4SME self-assessment, they can provide us valid documentation. As I said during service 2, also in this case, there is a time frame to respect. Basically, to activate service 3, all the beneficiaries have 4 months to activate the service. To activate the service, beneficiaries have to provide us valid documentation. Once the service is activated, all the beneficiaries have until the end of the project to request a second reimbursement, always related to the same EP patent. This is really important, and I will explain to you later the reason why I'm talking about only one EP patent and why the invoices must be related to one single patent. So in this case, so as I said before, once activated, beneficiary will have until the end of IPA4SME project to make a second request reimbursement. If a beneficiary does not activate the service award within 4 months, the support will be cancelled. But in the event that a beneficiary has been awarded both service 3 but also service 2 in the same cutoff date, the activation of either of the support services will be automatically extend the time with additional 4 months. So how is work the step-by-step process? Always, as I said, the different time. The first step is to complete the IPA4SME self-assessment. Please try to complete this exercise as soon as possible. As I said at the beginning of the conversation, you can find the link to complete the IPA4SME self-assessment in the communication award email. Beneficiary require no more than 5 minutes to complete the IPA4SME self-assessment. But for us, it's really important that everybody complete it. So to activate the services 3, as in the case of services 2, we need a valid invoice together with its corresponding proof of payment. In this case, beneficiary can only be reimbursement once they have one or more invoices related to the same EP patents issued from an IP patent attorney entitled to act before the EPO. And so basically the invoices must be related to a proof that you are going to register the EP patent to the European Patent Office. And to be considered service due valid, the invoice, as in the case of service due, must be issued by an IP attorney who appears on the list of the professional representative. In the guide of beneficiary, you can see at page 19 that there is a link that, as I marked, that all the beneficiary can click in order to check if their EP patent attorney appears in this list. Additionally, as in the case of service due, all the invoices must be issued after the date of communication IPA support, which means basically that if the communication award for all the beneficiaries of cutoff 4 was the 15th of April, in the event that the invoices, the date that appears in the invoices is, for example, the 20th of February, since is a date prior the date of communication of IPA4SME support, we will mark directly the invoice as invalid. So please try to take in consideration the date of communication of IPA4SME support, because according to our experience, usually we will disqualify a lot of invoices because they are dated before the communication of IPA4SME support. Additional to the date, to see if the EP patent attorney is appears in the EPO list of professional representative, is really important that the invoices must include the name of patent attorney, which means the people who provide you the professional legal advice, the patent application process, which means the title of the invention or the IP being protected, and the EPO patent application number, or a statement regarding the decision to discontinue the patent application process. In this case, there is a model, we provide a model in the guide, and you can find it in the Annex 1 of this document. So the first step is to provide us a valid EP attorney invoices. As also in this case, to facilitate the reimbursement, please try to provide us all the invoices and the document in English, but if it's not possible, try to add in the invoices the following statement, which we will help us to understand immediately what you are requesting. So, together with the invoices of the EP patent attorney, also in this case, we must receive also the corresponding proof of payment, that also in this case has been paid after the communication of award. Only bank transfer receipt which clearly indicated the name of the beneficiary, the EP patent attorney, and the invoices number will be accepted. So also in this case, please provide us all the document in a single PDF or zip file. And in the case, we will mark the document you provide us as valid, you can consider service 3 activated. The last step, as in the case of service 2, consists in the confirmation of reimbursement, which means that once the reimbursement has been received, the beneficiary, and once we accepted the reimbursement, beneficiary will need to upload the financial statement in the support documentation that we will use to take all the important information about the bank details of the company, in order to proceed with the partial reimbursement. Usually, in the event that we will accept the document, we are going to reimburse or to refund the beneficiary within 10-15 days. In every case, we will contact you by email in order to explain you if we accepted or not your documentation. So, in my point of view, Chapter 6 is one of the most important rules that beneficiaries have to follow, because basically the key basic of IPA4SME, univocal correspondence, is that one patent application process means that we can accept invoices only related to one patent application process in the IPO. So basically, every application will be for a unique patent application that in every case should be related to the European patent. In other words, when IPA4SME select an application, this is just for one single European patent. So please, all the invoices to claim partial reimbursement must only refer to and contain information about one single patent. So one application, one patent. No documentation containing information about several patents will be allowed. And in this case, this will disqualify the whole payment request. So please, all the documentation you will provide us should be related to only one single EP patent, which means same title or same number of patents. If a company has several patent applications, so is looking for receive reimbursement of several patent applications, the beneficiary may then submit several IPA4SME applications during the same cutoff or in future ones. So please try to keep in mind this. All the documentation should be related to only one single patent. In the case a beneficiary want to ask partial reimbursement to different single patent, beneficiary have to apply as many times as the number of the patent for which they are going to ask the partial reimbursement. So the coordination center will inform neither about validation nor about reason for invalidation, but usually when we have time, we will always contact the beneficiary to explain them if we validate or not the documentation. And it's also important that in the case there are some missing information, we always try to contact the beneficiary one by one in order to explain them how they can fix, how they can solve the problem in order to receive the reimbursement. For this reason, I kindly ask you to provide us documentation in English in only one single PDF file. Try to include always the model statement in order to facilitate our revision, because more easy is the revision, more easy is for us to explain you if there are some problems and if this problem can be fixed. For us, it's really important to try to reimburse as many invoices we can, but please try to collaborate with us following all the rules included in the guide for beneficiary. In the event that a beneficiary does not wish to make use of one or more of the support services awarded, please try to communicate your decision with us, sending an email to calls@ipa4sme.eu, in which you will just include the support service cancellation letter that is provided in the Annex 2 of this guide. The letter should be completed, signed, scanned, and then sent to this email. Thanks to this email, and thanks to this model, we will go to cancel your services. But please try to understand that in the case a beneficiary will cancel the services, this will not affect any other current or future services the beneficiary may have or receive. So at the end of the guide, in page 22 and page 23, you will find the model statement of discontinuation of patent application process, has the Annex 2, that is the support services cancellation letter model. So the guide is complete. Before to take in consideration the possible question that we will receive, I would like to show you also this PowerPoint in which we collected the frequently questions that usually beneficiary ask us privately by email. Please, in case you have any doubts or uncertainties, please contact us by using the course @IPA4SME.eu, and it will be a pleasure for us try to answer to all your questions. So every time, don't feel free, don't hesitate to contact us. So regarding the frequently asked question that I think could be useful for all the beneficiary to follow its presentation in order to understand better how the process works. As I said before, there is a specific time frame that all the beneficiaries have to follow in order to activate the service. I'm sorry if I am repetitive, but if a beneficiary has been awarded with service 2 and 3 or service 1, this doesn't mean that the service is activated. The service must be activated by providing us valid documentation, which means invoices and corresponding proof of payment, and beneficiary have to upload this document within 4 months of the date of communication of the award. That, as I said different times, all the beneficiaries of cutoff 4 received this email the 15th of April. In the event that some of the beneficiaries doesn't not able to find the email, please contact us via email, because in this way we can proceed to send again you the email in order also to find the link to complete the IPA4SME self-assessment. That for us is the mandatory step to complete in order to start the process. So it's really important also to notice that in the event that a beneficiary has been awarded both service 2 and service 3 from the same cutoff date, the activation of either of the support services will be automatically extend the time for the activation of other services by an additional 4 months. This means that in the case you activate service 2, but you don't have still the invoices related to service 3, once you activate service 2, you will have additional 4 months to activate service 3. So please do everything without being in a hurry, because the time you have a lot of time to provide us valid documentation. Question number 2. This is really important for all the beneficiaries of service 3. The question is, I am already working with an IPA attorney. Are his her costs reimbursable? As I tried to explain during the guide, for an IPA attorney fees to be reimbursed, the person issuing the invoice must be a professional entitled to act before the EPO, who has been hired by the SME for the purpose of preparing the filing of an European patent, or at least a PCT patent which means an international patent, being done through the IPO. Please remember that the EP attorney, the patent attorney, to be eligible should be present in the list of the professional EP. You can find this list by clicking on the link, or you can find also the link at page 19 of our guide for beneficiary. Also, this question is really important because we, according to our experience, a lot of time, as I tried to explain before, we market as invalid a lot of invoices because not all the types of patents are eligible within IPA4SME support. So basically, our support exclusively covers European patent registration processes, which for the purpose of IPA4SME project is defined as filing an application for a patent before the IPO covering, which means covering more than 2 European member states. Therefore, all the invoices related to AP protection in countries that are different from European, which means, for example, China, Brazil, Canada, will not be covered within IPA4SME project. So we will go to market them directly as invalid. Question number 4, always related to service number 3. What if a service 3 beneficiary, SME, does not have an EPO patent application number? So basically, as I tried to explain before, to validate service 3, in the invoice must include the name of the patent attorney and also the number of the EP patent protect. However, there are different cases in which the beneficiary doesn't have this patent application number. So in this case, where beneficiary have received legal advices from an patent attorney for an eventual European patent, but they don't have an EPO application number yet, in this case, to qualify for reimbursement, the invoice must include only this information, that are the name of patent attorney, that should be included in the IPO database, and the patent application process. In this case, the invoice must reference the title of the invention. This information will be enough for us. In any case, in the event that there is this problem for some beneficiary, what we can ask together with the document is also an email that is clarified as the reason why that in the invoice doesn't appear the number of the patent application. Question number 5. Is there any specific orders for service implementation? So in other words, if awarded with service 1, service 2, and or service 3, does me have to wait until the EP pre-diagnostic is finished to start benefiting from partial reimbursement? As I said at the beginning of the guide, it's really important to emphasize that in the event that a beneficiary have been awarded to receive more than one services, the beneficiary is not forced to follow any particular order in completing the service. This means that, for example, if a beneficiary have been awarded with both service 2 and service 3, they can start in parallel or decide to complete one after to start the second one. Additionally, this is really important, especially for all the beneficiaries of service 1 and one of service 2, service 3, or both, that is not a mandatory to complete service 1 before to start service 2 or service 3. Also in this case, beneficiary can decide to start all the 3 services in parallel without respecting a specific order. However, for the beneficiary of service 1, what we recommend is try to complete as soon as possible the services 1, because thanks to the expert, maybe you can be able to collect useful information that you can use in completing service 2 or service 3. So for all the beneficiaries of service 1, my recommendation is try to complete as soon as possible the IPA4SME self-assessment, so we can collect it, we can contact the expert of the national EP office. In this case, you will be in contact with the expert and you can start the services as soon as possible. Question number 6. As I said different time, this part for me is the most important part that beneficiary have to understand. What is service activation? Service 2 and service 3 can only be considered active when beneficiary have upload valid documentation into the EMS portal or platform. As I said different time, if a beneficiary has been awarded with service 2 and or service 3, does not mean that the service is active. The service is active only if as beneficiary is able to provide us valid documents within 4 months of the date of communication award. Valid document, as I said before, consists of an invoice and the corresponding proof of payment. Both documents must meet all the requirements included in the guide for beneficiary. In this respect, which regard the guide for beneficiary, all the beneficiary can access to the guide through the IPA4SME electronic sending system by visiting my course section behind my area space or menu. Here, beneficiary will be directed to a new page called supporting documentation by clicking on view call. In this area, all the most important documentation relating to IPA4SME support services are included, among which the guide for beneficiary and, for example, frequently asked question. Please keep in mind that I strongly recommend to carefully read the guide for beneficiary, because if a beneficiary read carefully the guide, will be easy for you to receive the partial reimbursement, because according to our experience, what a lot of time happened is that the beneficiary sent us the documentation 2-3 days before the deadline. In a lot of cases, that documentation don't meet the requirements that to validate the documentation. In this case, we don't have the time to contact them and to tell them what they should do to fix the problem. This is the reason why for us it's really important that all the beneficiaries read the guide immediately. In the event that there are questions or there are doubts or there are uncertainties, please contact us. In a couple of days, we will try to answer all the mails. It strongly depends on how many mails we are receiving, but it's true that almost all the time we are going to respond to all the doubts of the beneficiary. So once everything is clear, you can start to understand how to provide us valid documentation. But please try at least to read the guide as soon as possible, because otherwise then we don't have the time to fix your problem. And for us, it's really important to try to help you to receive the partial reimbursement. The last question is related to the VAT, because within IPA4SME project, VAT costs are not taken into account for the reimbursement calculation. So basically, we are going to include this cost in the reimbursement. So we finish the presentation as well the PowerPoint presentation about the frequently asking question. I'm going to check if we received specific question. Okay, we received only one. Okay, where can find the webinar slide? Okay, I think Filippo will explain you how you can find this, but basically, according to what I know, the guide, as explained before, you can find in the so as explained before, you can find the guide through the IPA4SME electronic sending system by visiting my course in section My Area. But it's also true that we are going to upload the webinar registration on YouTube. So it's really important to know that regarding the question, I will answer only those that do not take much time for a thorough explanation. However, Joan will send me the list of all the questions. So in the case the question is quite hard to answer now, I will answer all the missing questions via email. So let's go.